thoughts or opinions that one believes to be the absolute truth tend to have a negative impact on a person's life. And this directly stops them from moving forward and growing on a personal and professional level. Now, the question is then, what do we do? Or can we even do something to move forward? A very good evening, my dear friends. I am Waran, and welcome to the Waran Shanmugam Show. It's an amazing Wednesday, September the 15th, 2021, and we have with us tonight yet another amazing guest. And to answer that question in depth as to what do we do or can we do to move forward, we have today with us the president of APCD Institute, which is based in Texas, USA, who is also a Believe Change facilitator and the author of Believe Change, the book. Joining us live from Phoenix, Arizona, let us welcome Janet Gentleman Ingersoll. Hi there, Jan.
Selamat pagi.
That's
I
nice.
remember
Selamat.
some things.
Yes, you do. Selamat pagi, selamat pagi. It is selamat malam here, yeah. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful for 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing excellent.
Exactly. It's 5 a.m. there. Yeah. Welcome to the Waran Shanmugam Show. And we are deeply thankful and blessed to have you with us today, Jen.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
You're most welcome. Well, Jen, let me set the space here a little and share the reason as to why I'm doing this show. Yeah, this is for the benefit of those watching my show for the very first time. It's about women empowerment, Jen. I bring in many women from all walks of life, different parts of the world, and the idea is to have them share their personal stories so that someone, at least one of them out there, will get inspired and get to transform their life in achieving what they desire. And I always tell our viewers this, Jen, that they are more than what they think they are. I am more than I think. So, my dear friends out there tonight, you will hear this amazing PhD candidate all the way from Texas, USA, now in Phoenix, Arizona, sharing something that we all need to hear. For those who wants to know more about the programs that we do, yeah, or if you want to watch our previous shows, please do follow our Facebook page. I am more than I think. Click like, click share. So, Jen, when was the last time we met? Yeah.
When was the last time we met? Was probably in 2013 when you came and visited me in Chengdu, China.
Yeah, Chengdu. Yeah. That was
You
a
brought me
lovely experience. Yeah.
flowers.
Yeah,
I
that's right.
love your flowers.
I know, right? We shared so many things and we spoke so many things. And because I like what we speak about at all times, both yourself and Tim, I thought let's share this conversation of ours with the many people out there. Shall we?
Absolutely. Do you mind
All
if
right.
I preface with something based on what you said at the introduction?
Please go ahead, Jen.
So you spoke about how we have negative thoughts and they impact what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. But the opposite is true also. And
Mm-hmm.
when we can grasp that concept, that when we have a negative thought, a negative feeling, the opposite of that is a
Mm-hmm.
positive thought, a positive feeling, and all of those have the same power to drive our actions and our feelings. So it's important to understand that concept because that's where we're going to head, because that is your power. That is your personal power, is you have the ability to choose what you think, and as a result, what you feel and what you
Wow.
do.
That's nice. So from what you have just said just now, Jan, all positive and negative emotions do have its own purpose. You
Yeah.
just need to be guided accordingly.
And be the boss.
Wow.
You actually have the ability, and that was what I was going to encourage everybody to do, to be the captain of their ship, the master of their destiny, by choosing. Anytime one finds themselves thoughts, because negative thoughts always precede negative feelings.
Yeah.
Anytime one finds himself experiencing those negative thoughts, you can push the pause button in your brain and say, stop. And then you can flip that negative into a positive, and you are already powerful in that moment. It's that quick.
Okay. All right. That's nice. So now I have got a couple of questions before we were about to speak about what you have just mentioned just now. But since you are talking about this already, let me just go straight, or rather, we deep dive into the same topic. So you spoke about being the captain of the ship, Jen. But a
Yes.
lot of times, right, we tend to feel that we are the victim, and therefore there is something that is beyond us that is controlling us. How do we manage that then, Jen?
That is very true. And what happens is we get caught up in it and we begin to believe it, from we just begin to believe it. And then we have to talk ourselves out of it.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's a simple thing to do. The picture that you showed on there is a picture of me holding a dog. And when that dog was a puppy, I could hold him. But now he weighs 150 pounds. I can't hold him anymore. So he has a belief. Yeah, his name's Obi-Wan Ben Kenobi from Star Wars.
Wow.
He is,
So suitable. Yeah.
he is precious, but he weighs 150 pounds. I can't hold him anymore. So he has a belief that being held and cuddled means being loved. So what we have to do, because he feels like a victim of his big size now, he's no longer capable to do what he wants to do. We have to explore other ways for him to be able to feel loved and treasured and, nourished. Because that's important, not just to dogs, but to humans as well. We have to be loved.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And this is what always happens, right? When we tend to become larger in size, that means growing up. As a
Yes.
child, we still have got something that is within us, but eventually our body grows. When we grow, not
Hmm.
necessarily our mind matures. But how do we make sure that that happens, the maturity? Because a lot of times I feel from the many work that I have done, and I'm sure you can also vouch for this, where people tend to grow older, but the mindset is still at the very childlike. How do we grow? Let's put it that way.
By learning, constantly expanding your mind. And some point in our interview, I was going to tell you I'm an addict to school. I love to learn. So I have multiple degrees, and I'm still going to school at my age. I'm working on a PhD, but it's not just formal schooling. There's webinars, there's seminars, there's shows like yours, there's books, there's podcasts, there's YouTube. There's a million different sources of learning. And
Mhm.
by expanding your mind and realizing that we're here to grow and develop new skills and to constantly be learning and expanding, advancing is probably another word, advancing, because maturity is really advancing. I'm nowhere near the person that I was when I was 5, and that's a good thing. Some people get stuck,
Yeah.
you know. And back to being a victim. Being a victim is nothing but a story that you tell yourself, and it was inspired typically by external events you believed. But all beliefs are made up and chosen. So
Mhm.
you can write a whole new story. What would a victor look like? You know,
Mhm.
what would I be doing differently if I were a victor than a victim? How would I think differently that as a victor than a victim? And the same things was different between a winner and a loser. Winners talk to themselves in their brain. It's called self talk. Your self talk is different.
Hmm.
So you have control over what you tell yourself.
Okay,
Does that
that's
make
nice. Okay.
sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Let me put a reverse gear a little bit and go back to where you were from. You grew up in Texas, am I right?
No, I grew
Oh,
up south of Chicago, actually south of Gary, Indiana, but in Indiana on a farm. It was a wonderful way to grow up. I
yeah.
say a farm, it was a feedlot and farm both.
Yeah,
But
exactly, exactly. So farm is always about green schooling, they call it. Yeah. So you want to share a little bit about what's the life like growing up in a farm?
um,
Share a little bit.
I tell you, I I didn't appreciate it so much as a child as I do now. I was a very blessed child because my father worked in Chicago, so I always had the best of both worlds. I got to go into Chicago for fun entertainment, but I loved living on the farm and being able to go outside and play.
Hmm.
And it was a very different world then. When we got up in the morning, we couldn't wait to get out. And we would build forts or swing or play. I know I'm a girl, but we played with trucks in a sandbox, and and the sandbox was way bigger than a box because it was our whole yard. But there was a special spot we played, and you built things, and we had a huge haystack. And when I
Mm.
say huge, I mean bigger than the size of a freight truck. I mean, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
we would get up on that haystack and move bales of hay around and make forts up there or make a house, make a stage and put on plays. We had a very creative and fun childhood.
Nice. And you use the word we a lot of times. How many of y'all were there?
There were six of us.
Ah, nice.
Was oldest of six children born
Wow.
in 6.5 years. And originally, my father wasn't even supposed to have children. He was supposed to be unable to have children. So imagine their surprise when I came along. And, then my mother just kept having babies until they
Yeah.
figured out how not to have any more.
There
And
you go.
they
Yeah,
stopped.
talk about limiting beliefs. Yeah. So, so tell about your parents. How were they, and their parenting style? I mean, you've been in Malaysia and you have seen how we here parent our children. Yeah, is it the same, or how do they do it?
Oh, I think being a parent around the world, and that's one of the things Tim and I have done when, we've traveled all over the world and lived in different parts of the world. And we would literally go to the park like there at KLCC and sit and watch people, parents interact with their children. And we would always say, I don't care what country or culture a person comes from, every single child is exactly the same. They
Mm.
cry for the same reasons. They laugh and smile and giggle for the same reasons. And you can see that their parents just love and adore them. And that is irrespective of what nation or culture or whatever religion, it doesn't matter. We all love our children. So I think that parenting is the product of beliefs, usually what we grow up with.
Mhm.
And in my home, my mother was, in my eyes, and I've got to set the stage here, I was not a nice child. I was very naughty because I learned and developed a belief that if I was naughty, I got to go with my dad. My
Ah,
dad was a cattle buyer. He traveled all over the country and he traveled for about 9, 10 months a year. And so I would get to go with him instead of having to be home with a mom who would make me mind because my dad would spoil me. My
mhm.
dad took me to piano bars, and I learned karaoke before karaoke was even in existence. I would sit on a piano in a piano bar and sing as a small child. I was 11 years old before that belief was shattered by a friend who went with us to Chicago. And after we had dinner, I get up and go over to the piano bar and just start singing. I used to remember what the song was, but I can't at the moment. Something about a blue lady. Anyway, I was singing, and my friend tells me, she said, "You're not supposed to do that." And I was going, "Really? I've been doing this all my life. You're not supposed to do that." And that shattered my belief in an
Mhm.
instant. So a belief can be changed very quickly, or it can take a lot of work. And that's
Mhm.
where my book comes in. But
There
I
you
think I
go.
got
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that's your parenting style. I mean, your parents. How about yourself and Tim? With the children of yours, how were y'all different mindfully?
now I can't hardly say this because my husband is listening, and he might correct me on this. But I'm just going to give you an example instead. So whenever my children want something, they come to me. So whenever they want someone to discipline their children, they go to Tim. So
Nice,
Tim
nice.
even got calls in Malaysia, you know, would you talk to this child for me?
Yeah, that is just Tim, right? And talking about Tim, right? I was told by someone, Jen, that you just love your hubby Tim so much. Can you share a little bit about him and why you love him so much? But before that, I've got some photographs that maybe the many viewers out there would like to see. Can I share?
Sure.
All right, just hang in there for a while. Yeah, there you go, the cowboy.
Yes, we went to a Dallas Cowboys game on Christmas Eve.
Ah,
That
there
was
you go.
fun. Took our whole family.
Ah, nice. And this?
Australia on the left and Chengdu,
There
China.
you go. Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys were kangaroos there, yeah?
Yes, we were. Oh, and that's the Singapore Botanic Gardens, I believe.
Uh-huh. And the
And
one with bandana?
Disney would have, or where is that? That was the turkey trot. Ah,
Ah, I see.
yeah, we were running a turkey trot.
There you go. Tim looks cool in his bandana, yeah?
Yes. And
There
that's
you
our
go.
anniversary on the left in
Uh-huh.
California and in, oh gosh, where was that in China? Somewhere in China where we went to
Uh,
see the bamboo sea.
okay. And this one, definitely China, I suppose.
Yes, that was our first Chinese wedding.
There you go. That's nice. And
Yes.
then you all went Indian.
Yes, Supa's wedding. Yes.
Haha, Subai, yeah.
Yes.
And this one, how can I forget?
Yes. We love you
Yeah,
guys.
that's
Yes.
that was just back then, yeah. So yeah, so and it's interesting how you guys are together, and whenever I see the both of you, I learn a lot from the both of you. So tell us a little bit about Tim.
Oh gosh. Well, we worked together for 10 years. And it's really interesting because we were friends for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And never in that time did it ever occur to me that somehow, some way, we would end up as more than friends. And I just admired his work ethic. I admired his integrity because not very many people have that, it doesn't seem like, and he does. And his work ethic and how he would relate to the people that he worked with. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he was never, he was very humble. He was never arrogant and superior. And I really admired that. And we got to running together and always talking about our children. And, you know, it was just crazy. And then I found this workshop. And in the workshop, we had to make a list of what our ideal soulmate was going to be. And then after we made the list, turned it back into the facilitator. in an envelope with a stamp and our address on it. And
Okay.
she held that for 1 year. And
Mm.
so we had this list. And so 1 week after I made this list, Tim was taking me to a wedding of one of our coworkers who was a good friend of both of ours. And the best man was his brother, and he was interested in me. And it turns out he fit everything on my list. So I went out with him. I thought, man, this guy is Mr. Ideal Soulmate. And I found out that he liked to do drugs.
Ah,
And I was not into that. I don't do drugs, and I was really worried that if I was with him when he got in trouble, that I would lose my kids. And nobody wants to do that. So I had to find a had to say no to that ideal soulmate. But I learned that I had to add to my list that I wanted somebody who was clean and sober.
there you
So
go.
throughout this time, I never had another one show up that was even close to an ideal soulmate, the men that I went out with. But the whole time, Tim and I are running at lunchtime at work. And, every now and then we would do something together besides work or run. But we would get to know each other. And then one day he was just devastated. The Dallas Cowboys lost the playoff game and he
Mm-hmm.
was heartbroken. So he needed somebody to console him. So he called me and we went to the park and we were walking around the park, and it was a pretty crisp night because it was in January. And so as long as we were moving, it was tolerable. You weren't too cold or anything. But I don't even remember who, but one of us noticed that the moon had a halo around it. It was a full moon and it had a halo around it. So we stopped and we were looking up at the moon, and he puts his arms around me because I'm cold, and he puts his chin on my head. And oh my goodness, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like a light bulb. Here we have the full moon, so I had a light bulb saying, "This is your not your ideal soulmate, your perfect soulmate." But he was
Wow.
ideal also. And oh my gosh, I didn't know what to think about it because he and I have been friends for 7 years. So, and I'd never ever even contemplated or toyed with the idea that it would be anything else. And then everything just has snowballed to where we are today.
There
And
you
I'm
go.
telling you, it has been a journey. And when you get on your journey and it is the right journey, it is amazing how things unfold without you hardly having to do anything. I could never have sat down and wrote out that I wanted to move to Malaysia or
Yeah,
to move to China.
that's
It
right.
just wasn't on my radar.
Exactly, exactly. And I was blessed to be able to be a part of the journey of the both of you, simply because of how the both of you uh, show so much love, so much concern in everything that's happening around us, and that's amazing. And you spoke very well about him, how he can be at the highest position in an organization, but humility is at most. And it was so easy to just walk into his room and have a pleasant conversation
Yes.
on a very big scale of an issue. So, and he will make it so small and tiny that when you go walk out, you'll be like, "Hey, how come I didn't think of that?" So that's Tim, and it's lovely to have both of you all together. Very nice. No, so Jen, how about you doing this PhD? I heard.
Yes.
Tell us. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm addicted to learning in school, and man, my my mom died, and something about that just really became a trigger for me to go back to school. So my first thing was I started going to chiropractic school, and I had to go to class 5 days a week and sit in a classroom. And Tim told me, he said, "You know what? I did not retire for you to go and sit in a classroom." And so he said, "I'm going to go travel, and you can come with me or not, but I'm going to go travel." So guess what I did? I went and found an online classroom.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to school at Grand Canyon University. And right now I'm in Grand Canyon University for 5 days, very intense schooling.
Nice.
But most of the time it's online. And that's freed us up to travel. I've taken classes in Hawaii. I actually took a break when we took a cruise, but I do believe I did some schooling in Europe. So that's the value of online learning. And again, your shows like yours, so many webinars and seminars are now done online, to where there is no reason for anybody to not learn and grow. If you're not learning and growing, you're dying. So who wants to do that? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, Jen, as you are explaining and sharing your thoughts, a lot of things are running at the back of my mind, and it's interesting how you spoke about how lifelong learning. Yeah. That is the utmost important area that we all need to invest. Why? Because it brings about so much bliss. You get to know a lot of things. You get to learn a lot of things, and that's the beauty. That itself keeps you alive for a very long time. Jen, I have got some of them giving lovely comments, and I want to share with you. May I?
Sure.
All right, Lim with Tim here says, "Good morning, Jen. It's 5 a.m. Yes, good morning indeed. Yeah, and she says, "Good evening" to me. And Rajwin Kaur says, "Well done, Warren and Janet." Karina, all the way from Indonesia, saying, "Good evening, Warren and Jen."
Yay.
And we have got Chef Gaia who's saying, "Hi, Jen and Mr. Warren."
Hello, hello.
And Chef Gaia says this about you: she is very bubbly and charming. Yes, indeed, Chef Gaia. And then you have got Nelson Bay saying, "Good sharing, Janet. I like the topic, breakthrough limiting beliefs." That's amazing. Now, at that same point, I have got a couple of questions here, but we can take on that question if you are okay. Can we?
Absolutely, yes.
All right. So the question that Rajwin has got is this: what is the factors? What are the factors that limit our self-belief and change?
They are the emotional charge that's attached to something you tell yourself when an event happens.
Mhm.
So, for example, on your birthday, um, somebody celebrates. And so you tell yourself, I'm pretty special and I'm loved. But if somebody, or if your family forgets your birthday and ignores you and goes on as if it never even happened, what do you tell yourself?
Mm.
Usually, somebody would say, well, you know, I guess I'm not very special. Maybe I don't matter so much. And then both of those are beliefs. Once you tell yourself that and you begin to believe it, because usually you tell it more often, and other events come up that reinforce it, and you say, "Oh man, I really must not be very important," or "Ooh, I'm pretty special." And both of those have an emotional charge. So emotional charge is either negative or positive. And if you can think of your brain as computer storage, we have in a, if you know about computers, you know that the memory that is usually pretty large, and you can put a lot of data in that. For humans, it's unlimited. You can put any as much a whole lifetime's worth in it.
Mhm.
But the random access memory where you do your work is small and limited. And
Mhm.
so your brain has an ego, which you learn from psychology. And the ego, whenever you have an event come up, the ego is chartered with going out and getting everything associated to that event. So every memory that you ever have that's similar. For example, okay, I fell down. I fell down and I skinned my knee. So my brain, the ego, will go out and it'll find every incident in my entire life where I have fallen down that's similar and bring that to the random access, the short term memory is what it's called, to the short term memory or working memory. And then you, your conscious mind comes in and you make sense of it.
Mhm.
And, you know, that's the value of where breaking limited beliefs come in.
Mhm.
You and I have discussed using more than 3% of your brain.
That's right.
Most people will allow what was in their um, memory to dictate what's in the short term memory alone. And then that's what drives a person's actions, whether the action is a word or behavior, you do something, or that's what drives it. Your memories create emotions, and your emotion will cause a hormonal response, which triggers your body to respond.
Mhm.
So, where conscious mind comes in, you have the ability to use more than 3% of your brain and say, okay, sure, I fell down. That doesn't mean I'm a klutz. It just means that there was something there that I tripped over. And I have the ability and the power to make changes
Mhm.
that can prevent me from ever doing that again. And I guess going back to the birthday one too, you can either sit in the story and make yourself be a victim and tell yourself over and over again they didn't love me, you know, or you can enter your conscious mind and say, well, you know, yes, that's one way of looking at it,
Mhm.
but you know, maybe 9/11 happened and everybody's focused on that, or maybe, you know, something horrible at work is going on and their mind is focused on that. You can make it not be personal and say, okay. And another thing you could do, you could say, well, maybe I just need to talk to them about it. You know, you have unlimited choices about how
Mhm.
you respond. You can either play the victim and run that story, or you can play empowered person and go out and find other ways to look at it. And as a result, other things that you can do about it besides running a victim story.
Yeah, so it's victim versus victor, and I like what you said. Going back to what Nelson said, that he likes this topic so much, breakthrough limiting beliefs. That's the title of this show, yeah, tonight. I want you to, if possible, tell us, Jen, what does this title actually mean to you on a very personal level?
On a personal level, well, everybody has a story. Everybody has things that happen to them as a child that influences and affects the rest of their lives. Or they can be the captain of their ship and they could say, yes, that happened then. Doesn't mean it'll ever happen again.
Mhm.
And I guess again, let's go back to whenever I made that soulmate list. So anytime you uh, make that soulmate list, it sets a goal or an intention. So you telling your conscious mind does this, and it's putting it in that working memory, and your ego goes out and it gets every single experience you ever have had around soulmates. So for me, it was my parents. My parents did not have a very good relationship.
Mhm.
And consequently, and because my dad traveled a lot, he would cheat on my mom. And so I told myself as a child, I also saw his friends doing it too. So I said, all men cheat. You can't expect a man to be monogamous. And I saw, on the other hand, how devastated my mother was, and how his behavior affected his children and my mom. And so I told myself, yes, I really want a soulmate relationship, but my ego is dredging up all these experiences where men cheat and ruin a woman. I'm telling you, I thought it was like I would die if my husband cheated on me. I would be destroyed. My life would never be good again. Those were the stories I was telling myself. And so, what I had to do to break through that is, because this is before I actually learned about the exercise that's in the book. So, what I did is I went and I actively sought people that were married, that were devoted couples, that the husband wasn't cheating. So I could say, okay, my unconscious mind is telling me all men cheat, but yet here's an example where they're not cheating. They're being good, and it's a wonderful relationship to be in. So I had to do a lot of that. And they still did a lot of, I did NLP's belief change. And that actually really brought up a whole lot more stuff. So it was
Yeah.
even harder to get over. But in order to change beliefs, you have to dredge up the yucky stuff that's buried in your unconscious mind. And you
Yeah.
have to be able to look at it and ask yourself, okay, at one point in my life that served me. How did it serve me to believe that way? And thank it. Thank you for serving me. But now I have new information that shows that that is no longer a valid belief. It
Mhm.
no longer serves me. And
Yeah.
then you sit down and you go, okay, well, what is a good belief that will serve me? Because you have to replace it. You can't have a void. If you have a void, everything in the world is going to fill it, and it might not be what you want. It could be even worse. So you fill it with a good belief. So
Yeah.
that's what I did.
Okay, so Jen, limiting beliefs. This two word connects together, giving a lot of different meaning to it. Yeah, limiting beliefs. I just want to understand on a deeper level, what does this word actually means? Limiting beliefs. And when I ask you, what does it mean? How do we know that we have got these limiting beliefs? And probably with the work that you have done with the many clients of yours, you may want to, if possible, share how far these limiting beliefs can actually control a person. Would you be able to share a little bit on that area, Jan?
Yes. If you are a person who lives, and we all are, where we are mostly stimulus response, stimulus by our unconscious mind, and response to the emotion it generates, then beliefs control 90%, 97% of your life,
Wow.
if that's what you are. So if that's true, and it is, then wouldn't it be intelligent to be the master of what's in that, and
Definitely.
how you perceive it? And when you know that you can be, because that's the first step, is to know that you are empowered. You have the ability to do this. Most of us don't even know that. Most of us think we're stuck that way, or don't even think about it actually. So when you know that you can be the captain of your own ship, and and the other thing, um, when I was much younger, I used to complain because most people, including myself, and that was why I was complaining, learn the hard way. And I was going, that's the nature of this universe, but it doesn't have to be that way. Again, we can be the master of our ship, and we can choose to learn the smart way, the easy way. And that is by doing the exercises like are in my book, that are just questions. So you ask, how do you know you have a limiting belief? Anytime you set a goal or you want to do something and it doesn't work, you sabotage it, or it's just unfulfilled, then you have a limiting belief that is the barrier. It's a cloud, a veil between you and it. Because again, emotion is nothing but, if you understand anything about computers, you understand binary. You either have ones or zeros, a
Yes.
positive charge or a negative charge. That's all you have. That's all you have in your brain. So if in your brain you have about a subject, for example, I said, okay, I want to have a lot of money. Well, in my brain, I had this belief that if you have a lot of money, you're going to be miserable. You're not going to be a very good person. So I can say I want to have a lot of money, but over here, I am pushing it away because why would you want to invite something that's going to make you miserable? Your
Mm.
ego says, no, the ego's job, ego has really received a bad rap in the world. Ego is your best friend.
Mhm.
It's like your parent. It um, protects you, it keeps you alive, it's your survival. And so he says, my ego, and I don't know if it's a male or female, I guess for me it'd be female. My ego says, you don't want a lot of money, your life will be miserable. Or you don't want a soulmate because he'll destroy your life. So you have to ask yourself, now, is that true?
Mhm.
That was true for my mom. That was true for my dad's friends. But does it have to be true for me? No. But I have to change that energy so that it's like a teeter totter or those scales. I have to add more positives over here in this database to offset all those negatives that are a negative charge that push away either my soulmate or the money. It causes me to choose the behaviors, the words, the thoughts that keep me without a soulmate, or keep me, or if I got a soulmate, if I hadn't done this work,
Mhm.
if I'd attracted my soulmate, I would have ruined the relationship, you know? So it's
Mm.
it's all energy. And you
Yeah.
can be the master of whether it's primarily negative or primarily positive, but only if you do it. And you can learn it the hard way by looking at what you don't get that you want, or you can do it the smart way with books and exercises like my belief change exercise. And there's others out there,
Yeah.
but this tapping thing, um,
The
the
EFT.
the only problem with that is it doesn't fix the root cause. It doesn't do anything to replace those negative memories. So only when you're doing it is it going to work. It's going to eventually, it's going to be temporary. And with the belief change exercise, it's permanent.
Okay. Now, Jen, I read this and I quote: hidden deep within the darkest recesses of your mind lie dormant seeds, beliefs that spring to life when you set a goal, make a wish, or aspire to something greater. Alive, they become barrier energy that sabotage, literally repel your hopes and dreams. Good news is that they serve a purpose, your soul's greater good. Better news now in 10 simple steps contained in this book, The Belief Change Exercise, BCE for short, surfaces those beliefs that limit or hold you back in some negative way and enables you to reconcile and align them with your wants and needs. Now, this is from your book, Belief Change, the
Yes.
book. And with that in mind, Jen, could you like share with us some of those steps on how to get rid of our limiting beliefs? I know you shared a little bit about the questioning skills. So, can you?
Well, and that is what the exercise is it helps you identify an area of your life where you're um, where you feel unsuccessful. So again, for example, for me, at one point it was financial, and so I had to go in and answer questions, and the questions are in each of the step. And most of us don't even realize it, but we lie to ourselves. And maybe that's not the right. We deceive ourselves. We think we know what is holding us back. And so that's what we work with. Well, it's really something more. And it works to the questions work to get you to go deeper, like peeling an onion. Onions have lots of layers, so you will ask a question and you'll answer it, and that's one layer. But you go deeper and you keep going deeper until you get to the core. And when you get the core, and you realize that it has all these tentacles out there that reach out, and it doesn't just influence and affect the issue that you're working. It affects other areas of your life. So when you fix that core belief that is binding you and pushing away anything and everything that you say you want, then it just dissolves.
Mm,
And then you no longer have that energy that's repelling what you want.
that's
But you
amazing.
have to, again, you can do it the hard way through the bumps and bruises that you get when you want something and you don't get it and you get your feelings hurt. Most people will just add another layer to the onion.
Mhm.
But smart people will do the exercise and get rid of all those layers. So you don't even have to. And once you learn the lesson, you never have to learn it again. That is beautiful. Once you
Yes.
do this, you never have to repeat that. You repeat it for other things, for other limiting, because once you, that's the beauty of life on planet Earth. Once you get one problem solved, another one comes. But the best part about that is they usually aren't as hard. It gets easier.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it does, it does. And be the smart person. That's what she
Yeah.
said just now, Jen. Yeah, so for those who are watching, Janet, gentleman, Ingersoll is here sharing with us on limiting beliefs. How do you get a breakthrough? Now, Jen, we have got a couple of messages here, if I may. Sangari Krishnan says, good evening, Warren and Jen. Dato Bintik says, yes, lifelong learning for a better life. Well done.
Yes.
And we have got Susan says, well said, Janet.
Hi, Susan. I miss you too.
So I have got this question that came in my WhatsApp, and I want to ask you this question, if I may. This is from a lady from Penang. I'm sure you know where Penang is, and
Yes, I
she
do.
is asking this question. My child always says that she can never beat a friend in sports, a swimmer. What should I do to help her change her mind or limiting beliefs? Or can she even change her limiting beliefs? Would you like to answer that?
Oh, yes, yes. Well, there are actually several things that she can do. Um, it's interesting that she wants to beat somebody else. Um, it's as a mom, this is interesting. One of the things that I did in my life was when my children got to be teenagers, I got worried that they would get into drugs and alcohol and ruin their lives and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't want that to happen. So I did research about, what made people choose to say no when someone offered them drugs or alcohol or skipping out of school. And in that research, I learned three things that were common denominators between people who did say no and instead became um, successful. And the number one thing was caring and interfering, uh, facilitating a parent that helped shape and mold how their children thought and behaved. And sometimes it was a lot of work for the parents, but they succeeded. So I really want to commend you in being able to recognize that your child needs help. But more so, I would encourage you to help her reframe her thoughts. And the number one way to help a person to change their thoughts and beliefs is questions. So coming up with really good questions like, what would be different for you if you just set incremental goals and tried to beat your best time in swimming, um, as opposed to worrying about what somebody else does. Let's just focus on you because that's where you have more control. And if she can help her child see through asking good questions about uh, how the child's personal control is for herself and not other people, then she can help her child incrementally improve her time, assuming it's time that in swimming, and improve her form. But the other thing that she can do, and this is one of the very first things that I ever did when I was trying to change beliefs, was look for role models. Like I said, when I was afraid to get involved with a man, then I had to find examples of couples who were faithful to each other and better off because they were together instead of miserable like my parents were. So you find role models for her. And, when she can see, anytime you can see something, you can be it. So that works both good and bad too. So you gotta be careful. Don't put bad role models in your life, but find good role models. And when you see that, you can be it. And as a parent, again, back to what I found out in my research, you have the ability to facilitate your child's thought processes. One of the stories, and it's my favorite story from the research I did to find out, I asked the question, when you were a child and someone offered you drugs or alcohol or to skip out of school, what caused you to say no? And one of the men I interviewed said, when he was a child, it was his job to help his dad in the garden every day after school. And what his father did was ask him questions about what he was learning from his friends and peers. So, for example, if his friends told him candy's the best thing in the world and that's all we should ever eat, then he could say, that's true. You could. It does taste good. You could just eat candy. But your body needs broccoli and needs nutrients that comes from good foods like broccoli and meat and milk and things like that. And without it, it's like a car without good fuel. It's not going to go. So you need to nourish your body with good food and just have candy once in a while. So he told me, he said that when he turned 12 years old, they were having a birthday party in his house. And he said that his dad took him out in that garden, put his arm around him, and said, "Son, today you're 12 years old. In some parts of the world, you would be considered a man and assume a man's responsibilities, but that's not true in the US. What is true is that you are going to have a lot of opportunities to make choices and decisions, and I won't be there to help you make good decisions." He said, "I want you to remember one thing. I want you to remember that the quality of your life is the product of the quality of the choices you make. If you make good choices, you'll live a good life. If you make bad choices, you'll live a bad life." And he told him, he said, "Son, make good choices." And then Paul told me, he said, "My dad lied to me." I'm going, "What?" "He lied to you?" He said, "Yes. Every single time somebody offered me drugs or alcohol or to skip out of school, I heard my dad's voice say, 'Son, make good choices.'" And he said he was always with me. So the point of that story is, as a parent, this woman can have the ability to influence and affect her child's thought processes. Excuse me. And so she just needs to help her find those role models that came from behind and succeeded, and help her also see that the most important competition is not between her and her other friend or her other competitors. It's between her and herself. And as long as she's continuously improving and getting better, she's winning, even if it's not recognized in the world. Does that
Wow.
make sense?
That's beautiful. I like what you said. No matter what others say or perceive, she is still in the winning. That's beautiful. And the mom from Penang of the swimmer. I hope what Jen said makes sense. It definitely makes a lot of sense to all of us here. Jen, I have got Dr. Lau Bintik who is saying this. Janet, what you said is very true, as I have experienced this in my life, in work, in many NGOs, especially in St. John's Ambulance Malaysia. This gentleman, this fine gentleman, was the commander in chief in St. John's Ambulance Malaysia. And yeah, he agrees with what you have just said.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
we have got Vinaya from all the way from Pune, Maharashtra, India. Good evening, Ishwaran and Janet. There you go. You have got a good fan base, I must say, yeah, Jen.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, Jen, women and discrimination is something that I always ask to all my guests who appears in my show. But this time, I want to ask you the same thing, whether if you have experienced it in your life, but more so, this itself is a limiting belief, I must say.
It
So,
is.
so what would be an easy way, if there is, to manage this situation, Jen?
Well, that's fascinating. Of course, I believe everybody experiences discrimination. I don't care what who they are. Everybody just experiences discrimination. And the point is whether you believe it and agree with it or not.
Mhm.
So, for example, probably the biggest discrimination that I overcame in my life was as a child. I grew up in a time where there were not very many opportunities for women in the career world. We were to be mothers, or my father believed he didn't want me to get married and have kids. He wanted me to be a secretary or a teacher or a nurse. He said that's all women are good for in the world, to be a mom, a teacher, a nurse, or a secretary. So my first thing that I did when I got out of school was I went for about a month to be a secretary, and that was totally not me. So the next thing I tried was nursing school, and I was stunned because growing up, I didn't like school, and so I didn't do well in it because of that. And so when I went to college and I found out I was smart, I was shocked. And then I thought, well, I'm smart, but I can only be a nurse. I was just shocked. So I did finish being and went to work as a nurse, but I didn't do very good as a nurse because I cried all the time because not everybody gets well, and that didn't set well with me. And so I changed careers and I went into electronics, which is a man's field. It's not a woman's field. So, and this was partly, I believe, to break that barrier with my father, because there was nobody more proud than my father when I graduated from school in a man's world. And I was the top of my class. I mean, I was number one. And it was crazy. And in that time, I also experienced discrimination because I'm in a class in a school that's mostly men. I think there were like three women. And this professor told me, he said, no woman has ever passed my class, and you will not be the first. And he
Oh,
said this in front of everybody in the classroom. So, because I didn't take schooling very seriously when I went to my high school and before that, I really wasn't prepared to take his class. But two of the guys in the class heard him say that, and they said, "You know what? We'll help you get through." And they didn't help me by cheating, they helped me by tutoring me. So
wow.
they taught me what I didn't learn in high school so that I could get an A in this professor's class that no other woman had ever passed before. So I guess the moral of any discrimination is, do you believe it? Do you agree with it?
Hmm.
No.
Yeah.
Say no.
Yeah. Do you believe it is one, but more important question is, do you agree with it? And
Yeah.
that's the mind-blowing question. We are a little bit over time, Jen, but I need to ask you this one question, and it is so important. How do you, Jen, define success? Your personal definition.
Ooh. Ooh. Bottom line, and I believe this based on my faith, that each and every one of us have to stand before a creator or a God and account for what we've done here on planet Earth. And my motto, my personal motto, is that every person, puppy, and place is better because I've been there or interacted with it. So if I can stand in front of God and um, say that I have done a good job and hold my head up, then I'm successful if I've achieved that. And back to this lady whose child wants to beat her um, competitors. My competition is with myself. You know, I don't judge my success based on anybody else, but can I feel good about what I've done and what I'm doing? That is success to me, as long as I can do that.
Nice, nice. I always get goosebump moments in the mid of the show. Yeah, whenever someone says something or shares something. But that was my goosebump moment. Very nicely said, Jen. Jen, Susan says, "Miss you too, Janet." And I believe that you are living your life to the fullest.
I do
My
my best.
question. Yeah. And what's the message that you have for the many ladies and men out there on how do they live their life to the fullest, Jen?
I say, be the captain of your ship, be the master of your destiny. Choose to learn the smart way because that gets rid of a lot of the bumps and bruises we get and scars and limiting beliefs that we develop from learning the hard way. Be the master of your own destiny.
Oh, that's just lovely. So, Jen, I want to thank you once again for the lovely sharing. It was definitely mind blowing to know that we still have hope. Yeah, and that's beautiful.
Yes,
So,
we
so
do.
indeed. So, on behalf of all the viewers, Jen, I would like to extend my utmost gratification for being here with us live from Phoenix, Arizona. I know it's about 6 a.m. already now, and hoping to meet you very soon, Jen.
Looking forward to it. Love
Yeah,
you,
and
Donna.
exactly. I've got loads of messages coming thanking you, but I want to also remembering your birthday. Yeah, that's coming soon. Yeah, 24th
Yes,
September
yes,
next week. Yeah?
yes,
Celebration waiting.
yes, in Miami. My husband
Ah,
took me to
Miami.
Miami. Yes.
Nice. So, advance happy birthday to you, and may you get all that you wish for. Virtual hugs, Jen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day and can't wait to
Thank
see
you.
you again.
Yes, thank you. And send my love to Tim. And just stay on for a bit, yeah?
Yes. And your send my love to Susan and the family.
Will do, definitely. By the way, a lot of happy birthday wishes
Oh,
in the
thank you.
viewers chat group.
Thank
So, my dear friends, there you go. We have taken a little bit more time from what we usually do. Why? Because Jan is there sharing all those lovely messages, and it's important how we know that we have got a lot of homework to do. But remember this: act upon it now. Upon it right now. Get that book, ladies and gentlemen. Believe Change, the book by Janet Gentleman Ingersoll. Limiting beliefs have been in control of your life for a very long time, and it has to end. Remember, as I said, the time is now. So use some of the steps shared just now and see how you could build a new path, a new route that will enable you with the life you desire. My dear friends, far and near, thank you so much for the comments, lovely questions, and thank you for watching. Remember, I am more than I think. This is Warren signing off. Meet you again, same day, same time next week. Bye bye.